Well, Commander, you've done a tremendous job in this sector. But there's still one more battle to win. You need to retake the White House. From a tactical standpoint, we both know it's purely symbolic. But we cannot underestimate the value of perception in this war. We want to show the world we've stopped the bleeding and have Nod under control. A word of caution, however. Nod's elite forces are employing stealth. Your countermeasure is to take out their disruption towers. Do this, and you'll blow their cover. Good luck, Commander.
Incoming transmission. Nod's forces are too numerous for engagement. Eliminate the Nod anti-air defenses to allow an air support strike from recently reclaimed Langley Air Force Base.
Well, welcome back, Commander.
Yes, sir.
We have a few new things coming on here. Firstly, we get the Orca power. I get to show off the planning moves. And mostly because I played this mission once, and then there's some secret hidden objectives that, had I known, I would have done the first time around. So there's going to be a little bit of speed up this time around. We also have at least one new unit that we can see. Please don't talk about it. We haven't come across it yet, so, you know, in due time.
Select target. Air support is incoming.
Target in visual. Blow them to hell, boys.
Listen up, missile squad.
Target destroyed. Returning to base.
As you might imagine, the power isn't normally that strong. It's just a cutscene type thing.
Enemy units sighted. Incoming transmission. Nod has set up a base in front of the White House. Destroy its production structures to reclaim this region.
Keep in mind that Nod is supposed to be using disruption webs or whatever,
Park it there.
which again is a flip of what we see normally from GDI or from the good forces.
Nod is using these disruption towers to cloak its base. Destroy them, and it should make their base vulnerable to our attacks.
Whereas in Red Alert, the allies get gap generators, and in Tiberian, it's stealth for Nod forces.
New bonus objective. Unit under attack.
It's interesting to note that we can see on the minimap that there are several things that are cloaked and several things that aren't. Notably, it doesn't look like the disruption towers themselves cloaked. I'm not quite sure I appreciate that. I feel like it would be more pertinent for the disruption towers to also cloak themselves, putting a greater emphasis on vehicles and scanning equipment. There's also a few issues with this map. The resource generation that you get is far too low for what you actually need. And somehow, in the weirdest turn of events, the Nod forces actually started occupying buildings, which wasn't the case the first time around.
The Predator tank has been released to you for this mission. You may construct them at your war factory. You'll find the Predator tank to be most effective against Nod's vehicles and structures.
Sniper team,
Stealth unit detected.
Personnel carrier.
What do you see? Heading to new position.
Now, honestly, it's not really an issue for Nod forces to occupy buildings. You have grenadiers after all, and if anything, it's just a minor stopgap before you can proceed.
Bonus objective
APC
complete.
ready for combat.
Construction complete.
Need somebody taken out?
It's also never mentioned, but you should absolutely capture the Tiberium silos that we saw in the Nod missions. They give you a healthy supply of Tiberium, and honestly, you're probably going to need it for the eventual build-up for destroying the objectives. It'll be shown off a little bit more later, but it's important to note that the Predator tank that we get is kind of a really good example as to how you can't quite brute force unit matchups anymore. Also, under normal circumstances, you would have one sniper team in each building, but the Nod forces actually bring enough units that having one single sniper team just isn't enough firepower to prevent the building from being shot at, and over time, that damage will just eventually blow up the building.
Predator crew ready to roll.
Our base is
And although I fast forward through it, it's important to also note that you can eject units out of a dying APC so long as the unit hasn't actually died yet.
Standing by.
The unit inside, the squad that is, doesn't take any extra damage. They don't have any sort of proportional HP based on the HP of the APC.
Let's set her up.
So if you're quick enough, then you can pretty much just get free use of
Our
APCs.
base is under attack.
Now, it's a lot harder said than done, obviously. Or easier said than done, obviously, because, well, you need quite the fast reaction time. You need to be able to determine which rockets are shooting at what, or what guns are shooting at what, in order to eject units safely. Alternatively, you could, I suppose, always just mass eject everybody and not really have to worry too much about it.
Units under attack.
After all, one of the big benefits of the APCs is that your units move faster, and you don't really have to worry about Tiberium being all that much of a hazard.
Predator ready for battle. Predator. Tank division.
I understand that you sometimes, as a designer, want to create some vulnerabilities in a map or in the design of certain missions, but it seems rather strange that most, if not all, of Nod's power is up in a corner that features very few defenses. It just sort of takes away from the mystique of the disruption towers. There's so much build up to it, you know that it's a strength of Nod forces, and then all of a sudden you don't really have to worry about it at all. Perhaps maybe if they had a string of disruption towers that moved ever closer to your base over time as the Nod forces used their meager resources to build towards you, and that way units would be cloaked, and you wouldn't be able to necessarily tell when an attacking force was about to strike.
Rolling.
Gripes about the design of this mission aside, though, I'm going to be a little cheesy and take advantage of the two large Tiberium fields that are right next to the White House and essentially bring a construction vehicle in order to build a new base. Also worth mentioning, and I'm not sure if it came across all too clearly with the power plants, but you can queue up waypoints for destroying targets. Interestingly, you can even do this with individual squad units. So it is technically possible to target, say, a Confessor before you target anybody else in the actual militant or rocket squad.
Unit under attack.
Let's hit them. We have their position.
Unit lost.
It also makes it rather helpful when you're just going through a mission and maybe you're worried about your macro, and you'd rather just give a specific set of instructions before jetting off to another part of the map, figuring out what the heck's going on, and then coming back to your attack force.
Construction complete. Construction complete. Building.
It's not exactly new technology at the time. It's certainly not new tech for RTS in general by the time of this game, but it is new mostly to this series. Now, the first time I played through this, I built probably about like 30 Predator tanks, and while they did eventually get the job done, they just don't quite perform well against infantry. This becomes quite a bit of a problem when you're having to face rocket squads, or at the very least, even Black Hand. It might not seem quite like it, but Black Hand troopers do quite the consistent amount of damage, especially if they just never die. And Predator tanks just don't quite have the strength to accomplish that.
ABC, what's the plan?
Unit under attack. Stealth unit detected.
Now, at this point, I was trying to be a little cheesy. I wanted to see if maybe I could capture the Hand of Nod and see maybe that if that might give me some extra intel or observations. However, I managed to lose the engineer that was right here, and if you heard the earlier call out, there were cloaked units. Well, where exactly were these cloaked units? We'll get to see shortly. Also, the Tiberium silo here lets me build a turret, so sure.
Ready when you are.
I haven't really talked about it as well in the thread. Someone asked about the veterancy bonuses, and while the usual of plus damage, maybe some plus health, some regen if you're at max HP, etc., is worth pointing out, the biggest and most important thing is that it's always based on damage now rather than kills. This makes certain units much easier to upgrade, or rank up, I should say. It also just makes it more universal and easier. Sadly, I couldn't prevent the banners unfurling again.
Well, less than 24 hours ago, this entire northeastern blue zone was under siege from Nod. GDI forces were overwhelmed, their command center was about to fall, and the free world was literally hanging in the balance. But one brave battle commander led a string of victories in DC that seemed to inspire yet more GDI victories all across the globe.
It's heartening to know that GDI has really come out swinging.
Yes, very heartening. We're putting up one hell of a fight out there. But William, I disagree with your assessment that the outcome of this war is still in doubt. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever that GDI will prevail. We will have the will, the resources, and most importantly, support of the people. The public wants payback, an eye for an eye. And that's exactly what we're going to give them.
The question then seems to be, can you deliver on this promise? Several conflict analysts are citing your lack of wartime experience as a cause for concern.
I believe in my generals and commanders. They are the best of the best. And I believe they deserve not only the trust of myself and my administration, but the trust of the people. Because that is who we are fighting for, who we are fighting to protect. Undermining that critical bond of trust between a people and their protectors is, I believe, a mistake.